The CEO ignored the single dad until seeing him with another woman changed everything. No one ever noticed Daniel Reed. When he walked into the glass tower every morning, with his coffee growing cold in his hand and a quiet weight on his shoulders, he was just another mid-level analyst in a company ruled by sharp heels, sharp suits, and sharper ambition. To most people, Daniel blended into the background, polite, efficient, invisible. What they didn't see was the life he carried behind that calm exterior. The early mornings packing lunchboxes, the sleepless nights soothing his sick daughter, the silent grief of a man who had learned to be both mother and father at the same time. Ever since his wife passed away 3 years earlier, Daniel's world had narrowed to one purpose: his 6-year-old daughter. Lily. He never stayed late for office drinks, never joined gossip-filled lunches, never lingered to impress the higher-ups. He left exactly at 6 every evening, rain or shine, because Lily was waiting. That routine alone had earned him quiet judgment in a workplace that worshipped sacrifice to the job. And at the very top of that hierarchy sat Victoria Hale, the CEO, brilliant, commanding, and famously indifferent to excuses. Victoria Hale was a woman who had built her empire with relentless focus. She respected results, not stories. From her corner office, she saw Daniel Reed only as a name on reports and a face that disappeared early every day. In her mind, he lacked hunger. She had once noticed his departure during an important crunch week and dismissed him with a single thought: unreliable. That judgment settled in her mind like a sealed verdict. Daniel, unaware of how deeply that impression had rooted itself, continued to work with quiet dedication, delivering clean analyses, solving problems efficiently, never asking for praise. He didn't complain when his ideas were credited to louder voices in meetings. He didn't argue when promotions passed him by. Survival had taught him patience. One evening, the company hosted a formal dinner at an upscale restaurant to celebrate a major acquisition. Attendance was strongly encouraged, and Daniel hesitated. Lily had a school play that night, but the event carried weight. After days of internal debate, he arranged for his neighbor to stay with Lily and promised her he would be back before bedtime. He arrived at the restaurant feeling out of place in his simple, dark suit, scanning the room filled with laughter, clinking glasses, and polished confidence. Victoria was there, of course, radiant and composed, commanding attention without effort. She barely noticed Daniel as she moved through conversations, accepting congratulations, reinforcing her image as a leader who never faltered. Daniel found a quiet corner table and focused on nursing a glass of water. Planning to leave early? That was when he saw her Emma. She stood near the window, city lights reflecting in her eyes, her presence calm yet magnetic. Emma was someone Daniel had met weeks earlier at a community center fundraiser for single parents. She volunteered there, warm, perceptive, and refreshingly genuine. Their conversations had been easy, unforced, grounded in shared understanding rather than ambition. Tonight, seeing her in this unexpected world felt surreal. Their eyes met, and her smile was immediate, sincere. She walked over, and in that moment, Daniel forgot the towering ceilings and corporate faces around him. They talked softly at first, catching up, laughing about this strange coincidence. Emma encouraged him to sit with her, and reluctantly, Daniel agreed. As they talked, something in him relaxed. He wasn't performing, wasn't measuring his words. He was just a man sharing a meal with someone who saw him fully, unbeknownst to him, across the room. Victoria's attention had been caught not by Emma, but by Daniel. She paused mid-conversation, eyes narrowing slightly as she observed him. This was not the man she thought she knew. Daniel Reed, the forgettable employee, was sitting with a woman who carried herself with quiet confidence, engaging him with warmth and respect. He wasn't withdrawn or awkward. He was attentive, thoughtful, present. The way he listened, the way he smiled, not the polite office smile. But something genuine settled her assumptions. Victoria watched longer than she intended. She saw the ease between them, the mutual respect. There was no desperation, no pretense. It contrasted sharply with the performative charm she saw so often in her world. A flicker of curiosity stirred within her, followed by discomfort. How had she missed this? How many times had she reduced people to single traits, single moments, without ever looking deeper? She dismissed the thought quickly, annoyed at herself, and turned back to her conversation. Yet, her focus fractured. Her eyes drifted back more than once, drawn to a truth she hadn't expected. As the evening wore on, Daniel checked his watch, anxiety creeping in. He stood, apologizing to Emma for leaving early. She understood without explanation. That understanding hit him harder than he expected. As they stood, their hands brushed briefly. A simple, human moment. Victoria saw that too. Daniel excused himself from the room with the same quiet humility he had arrived with, unaware that something had shifted. Not in his career, not yet, but in the perception of the woman who held his professional fate in her hands. Outside, the city air was cool, grounding. Daniel breathed deeply, thinking only of Lily and the promise he needed to keep. He didn't know that inside the restaurant, Victoria Hale sat in silence longer than usual, replaying the scene in her mind. For the first time in years, certainty wavered. And once doubt entered, it refused to leave. Chapter 2. Victoria Hale didn't sleep that night, and the reason unsettled her. She had built her life on control of her time, emotion, and outcommutes the image of Daniel. Reed, sitting across from another woman, refused to leave her mind. It wasn't jealousy or curiosity about his personal life. It was the quiet realization that her judgment had been shallow. By morning, she dismissed the thought as distraction. But the moment she entered the office, her attention drifted toward Daniel's desk. He arrived as usual, unremarkable on the surface, greeting coworkers politely before settling into his work. Nothing about his routine had changed. Yet everything about how Victoria saw him had. Over the following days, she noticed patterns she had long ignored. Daniel spoke only when necessary, but when he did, his words carried precision. His reports were clear, anticipating problems before they arose. Others leaned on his work, often taking credit without acknowledgement, and he allowed it without protest. What she had once interpreted as lack of ambition now looked like discipline shaped by responsibility. That realization unsettled her more than any missed forecast ever had. When a critical project began to collapse under conflicting leadership, Victoria made an uncharacteristic choice. She asked Daniel for input. The room fell quiet when he spoke, not because he was forceful, but because his solution was grounded, practical, and effective. There was no performance in him, no attempt to dominate the space. He solved the problem and stepped back. Victoria approved his plan immediately, feeling the weight of her earlier indifference settle uncomfortably on her shoulders. After the meeting, she asked Daniel to stay behind. Their conversation was brief but revealing. He explained his boundaries with calm honesty. He was a single father. His daughter needed him, and he refused to trade her presence for professional approval. There was no bitterness in his voice, no plea for understanding. He simply stated a truth he lived by. Victoria listened, realizing that while she had measured commitment by hours spent in the office, Daniel measured it by responsibility carried without complaint. Outside of work, Daniel's life was slowly changing. His bond with Emma deepened through shared moments rather than declarations. She fit into his world naturally, respecting his past and his priorities. Lily grew comfortable around her. Not because Emma tried to win her affection, but because she offered patience and consistency for the first time in years. Daniel felt something beyond endurance. He felt balance. Back at the company, Victoria made changes that surprised everyone. Daniel was given a leadership role that recognized his contribution, without demanding his personal sacrifice. The decision drew quiet criticism, but results followed quickly. Productivity improved. Morale shifted. Daniel led without force, without ego. He didn't stay late to be seen. He didn't speak loudly to be heard. He simply worked, and others followed. The moment that finally settled everything came unexpectedly. Victoria encountered Emma at a charity event the company sponsored. Recognition passed between them instantly. Their conversation was calm, measured, and revealing. Emma spoke about Daniel and Lily with warmth, not pride. She described a life built on presence rather than ambition. Victoria listened, feeling the sharp edge of clarity. She saw, perhaps for the first time, the cost of the life she had chosen, the relationships she had postponed, the humanity she had filtered out in pursuit of success. That night, Victoria remained alone in her office long after the building emptied. The city lights beyond the glass no longer felt victorious. They felt distant. She understood then that power had narrowed her vision, and Daniel's quiet integrity had exposed that limitation. He had never asked to be seen, yet in being fully himself, he had forced her to see. Weeks later, Victoria watched from her office window as Daniel left the building with Lily laughing beside him, Emma walking close, their world intact and unhurried. She felt no regret, only understanding. The change had never been about another woman. It had been about, finally, recognizing the strength in a man. She had once ignored the truth she could no longer deny.